How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Ches, Daf 8 of Masechta Nazir, friends. Well, today we're talking about more of this like Nazir stuff. Like, are you a Nazir for like several terms of like Nazir experiences? That kind of stuff. So it says in the Mishnah on Daf Ches, all the way at the top, I mean, a Nazir kisar roshi. As we saw this yesterday, right? A fellow says that he's a Nazirite like the hairs on his head. V'chafar aretz, or like the dust of the earth. V'kachol ayam, or like the sand on the beach. Harei ze nazir olam, so memele, he's going to be a Nazir for the rest of his life, because, right, and let's go vaytu megalech achas l'shloshim yom, and he gets a haircut every 30 days. So basically, the Tanakama is saying that what this fellow is essentially saying is that he's going to experience one 30-day Nazir experience corresponding to each hair follicle on his head. We don't seem to be differentiating between people who are bald and people who are not. Like, the assumption is, that's interesting. What if you have a fellow without hair and he says that he's going to be a Nazir like the hairs on his head? What the heck? Maybe he's just a Nazir for 30 days. Maybe it's machlokas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. We're going to see that there's machlokas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel tomorrow. About, maybe if you have a bald guy who says that he's a Nazir for the hairs on his head. Psych. I don't have any hair on my head. Good one, guy. Akoponim. So maybe Beis Shammai would say you still have to be a Nazir for 30 days. Akoponim. The assumption here is that you're like me, friends. You see, I just took off my hat. You see what's going on over there? Or maybe in that case, maybe it's like the hairs on his beard. All right, let's go weiter. So akoponim, or like sand, things that are plentiful. So we assume that he's going to experience one 30-day Nazir experience for each follicle of hair, for each granule of sand, for each speculation of dust. Weiter. Rabbi Omer says, Rabbi, no, it's not individual 30-day Nazir experiences. In what situation would there be individual 30-day Nazir experiences? If he was explicit, if he says that I'm going to experience 30-day Nazir experiences equivalent to the follicles of hair on my head, or the dust of the earth, or the sand of the sea, well, in that case, they would be individual Nazir experiences. However, if he doesn't specify that he's talking about Naziros, multiple Nazir experiences, well then he's talking about one Nazirus, one long Nazirus. Hareini Nazir Melo Abayis. If a fellow says that he is going to be a Nazirite like a filled up house, or Melo Akupa, or like a filled up box. Bodkin also, Im Omar Achas Gedola Nazarti Nazir Lamed Yom. If he we check what he's saying. He says, look, if he's saying that he's going to be, have one large Nazir experience, so then he's as we learned yesterday, right? This one large Nazir experience is a 30-day Nazir experience. Im Omar Stam Nazarti, and if he says no, Stam, I just said I'm going to be a Nazir like the content of a house or of a box. Well, then we have to view it as if the box is filled up with mustard seeds, which is going to be a whole bunch of mustard seeds, and each mustard seed is going to represent a 30-day Nazir experience, and the Memele is going to be a Nazir for the rest of his life, broken up into 30-day Nazir experiences, representing each mustard seed. Hareini Nazir mikan ad makom ploni, as we learned yesterday as well. If a fellow says that he's going to be a Nazir from here until we arrive at our destination, omdin kama yom mikan ad makom ploni, so we evaluate, okay, well, how many days are there from here until that destination? Im pachus milamed yom, if it's less than 30 days, Nazir lamed yom. Well, there's no less than 30 days as we're aware of, right? The minimum is 30 days. So he's going to be a Nazir for the 30-day minimum, right? If the distance is less than 30 days, he's going to be a Nazir for the 30-day minimum. Ve'imlav Nazir kaminan hayom. And if the distance is more than 30 days, well, then he will be a Nazir for however many days it is. If it's a 40-day journey, as we were saying yesterday, then he would be a Nazir for 40 days. If a fellow says that he's a Nazir like the number of days in the year, in the solar year, so he's going to experience a separate 30-day Nazir experience for each day of the year. So 365 times 30. Right? He's going to have, so what's that? That's, I don't know, what's 365 divided by 12? I don't know, 10, 20, I don't know, be a Nazir for like 30 years or something like that. Amr Reb Yehuda, Maise Hoya, Kevin Shehishlim Meis. There was Taka once a Maise where a fellow made such a stipulation that he's going to be a Nazir like the days in the year, 365 individual Nazir, 30-day Nazir experiences, and when it ended around 30 years later, the fellow was transferred to Wellwood. Says the Gemara, gewaltig. So we say in the Mishnah that if he says he's going to be a Nazir like a full house or a full box, so we say that we view it as if the box is full of mustard seeds. And Memele, if it's full of mustard seeds, and each mustard seed represents a 30-day Nazir experience, so Memele is going to be, it's going to last him the rest of his life. And every 30 days, he starts a new Nazirus. Ve'amai, why should we say that we view it as if the box is filled up with mustard seeds? Why don't you say that we view it as if the box is filled up with gourds? Maybe it's filled up with a pumpkin. How many pumpkins can you fit in a box? 1, 2? Maybe he's a Nazir for 1 Nazir experience, 2 Nazir experiences, nothing, Why do we have to say that he's a Nazir the rest of his life in successive 30-day Nazir experiences? Why don't we say that the box is filled with bigger items and, it'll end after 2, 3 experiences? Chizkiah says it's machlokes, friends, it's machlokes that we saw in Masechta Nedarim. Reb Shimoni, our Mishnah is like the opinion of Reb Shimon de Omar, that he says, Adam machnis es atzmo, the davish sveiko chomer mi vada'o. That Reb Shimon says that a fellow enters himself into something that the uncertain outcome is more stringent than the certain outcome. Friends, do you remember what we were talking about? Was this Daf Tezvav? What Daf was this? Daf Yud Tes. Okay. Of Masechta Nedarim. The Tanya is within the price. Areni Nazir, Amnashe Bichri Ze Mea Kor V'Halach Umitzo Shenignav O She'avad Reb Shimon Oser Shesafik Nazirus Lahachmir Reb Yehuda Mater Shesafik Nazirus Lahakol. Friends, do you remember this case? The situation here is that you have 2 friends. They're sitting around, they're having a good time. And one guy says that I'm going to be a Nazir if in a certain pile there is 100 kor. And they say, okay, fine, okay, let's go check out this pile and see if there's 100 kor. And okay, I guess if there's 100 kor, you'll be a Nazir. All right, let's see. And they go, and the pile's nowhere to be found. The pile is nowhere to be found. Now what? The guy's stuck. Because he's like stuck in the middle now because he's a Suffolk Nazir. Like, in order for him to know if he's a Nazir or isn't he a Nazir, we have to check out the pile to see how many cores of stuff is in it. But the pile was stolen. And now we'll never be able to know. He'll forever be stuck in this place of being a Suffolk Nazir. And being a Suffolk Nazir is more stringent than being a Vadei Nazir, because a Vadei Nazir, if he's a Nazir for 30 days, after 30 days he brings his Korbanos, it's over. A Suffolk Nazir, he's a Suffolk Nazir his entire life. Because the way to end your Nazirus is, part of it involves bringing korbanos. You can't bring a suffix korban, right? You're risking bringing chud and lazar. So therefore, and Reb Shimon says he's a suffix Nazir his entire life, because as we said, Adam machnis atzmo, what do you say? A person will enter himself into a situation where the doubtful experience is even more stringent than the certain experience, right? In this case, the suffix Nazir, the perpetual suffix Nazir state that he's going to be in for the rest of his life, or persistent, whatever the word is, he's going to be a suffix Nazir the rest of his life, is a more stringent situation than being a Vada Nazir for 30 days or whatever it is. So we see that Reb Shimon is saying that the suffix situation is going to be a Nazir, whereas Reb Yehuda says no, the person doesn't put himself in that situation, and therefore, in the event that the pile gets lost, or I think Reb Yehuda even went so far, if I remember from Masechet Nedarim, to say as by a Nazir you have to be specific, right? You have to, you can't say can't make stipulations by Nazir. I'll be a Nazir if there's in this pile. No, but you have to be explicit by Nazir, if I remember correctly, according to Reb Yehuda. But for our purpose over here, Reb Shimon is willing to be stringent by suffix when it comes to Naziris, and Reb Yehuda is more lenient, right? He says suffix Naziris lahakol, and therefore our Mishnah is Reb Shimon. So our Mishnah that says that he says he's going to be a Nazir like the contents of this box, we have to view it. So we have an option. We can view it as if there's gourds in there, and it's not that many in there. You do a few Nazir experiences and it's over. Or we view it as if it's filled with mustard seeds, and you're going to have to you'll be Nazir the rest of your life. So our Mishnah is like Reb Shimon, who says that we're going to be more stringent and treat it with like the mustard seeds. Rabbi Yochanan Amar afilu temer Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yochanan argues with Chizkiah and says that no, you can even argue that our Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda, because Hasam lo nachis le l'nazirus, hacha nachis le l'nazirus b'mai l'saluke mine. Friends, you hear it? You hear what the Gemara is saying? The Gemara is saying is, look, in the case of the pile, that the guy says, I'll be a Nazir if there's 100 core in the pile, and the pile gets stolen, Rabbi Yehuda says, forget it, he's not a Nazir. In that case, it was a suffix if Bechlal was going to be a Nazir. It depends. If in the pile there was 100 core, he would be a Nazir. If there was not 100 core in the pile, he would not be a Nazir. It's questionable if he's a Nazir Bechlal. In this case, he's definitely a Nazir. He's saying that he's a Nazir like the contents of this box. Okay, so the question is it filled with gourds or is it filled with mustard seeds? So meaning, is he only going to have to do a few Nazir experiences, or will he have to do Nazir experience after Nazir experience for the rest of his life? Okay, that's the question. Is it going to be a little or a lot? But he's definitely a Nazir. And therefore, Rabbi Yehuda, you can even say that our Mishnah, that is stringent and says that we have to treat it as if the box is filled with mustard seeds and he's going to be Nazir the rest of his life, can even be Rabbi Yehuda. Because when Rabbi Yehuda says that we're lenient, that's when we're not sure if he's Bechlal a Nazir or not. Here we're for sure, we're certain that he's a Nazir. And once we're certain that he's a Nazir, then we got to go hard on him. We can only be lenient when we're not sure if he's a Nazir. Once we know he's a Nazir, then we got to go hard on the guy. And we know here he's a Nazir because he's saying like he's a Nazir like the contents of this box. And this box we view it either we can view it as if it's filled with gourds or as if it's filled with mustard seeds, but it's definitely filled with something, and he's definitely a Nazir. And once he's definitely a Nazir, then we got to go hard on the fellow and view it as if it's filled with mustard seeds, and even Rabbi Yehuda would agree with that. Amaylo lechazye lekupa ki'ilu melea kishuin vidluin. Again, but still, Rabbi Yochanan, why not, if we're saying that it's Rabbi Yehuda, why not say that we view it as if the box is filled with gourds, and then he doesn't have to be a Nazir the rest of his life. It'll end after a few experiences. Because after all, we're assuming that he's accepting upon himself individual Nazir experiences for each gourd or for each sunflower seeds are not my thing at all. I'm very, very anti-sunflower seeds. Not the flavor. The flavor of sunflower seeds is fine. But the phenomenon of people walking around town click-clacking seeds and spitting them on the floor is not something that I can get behind. Al-Koponim. Al-Koponim. Mustard seeds. So mustard seeds. Where were we? Mustard seeds. People fill up their pockets with sunflower seeds. They just walk around town eating them all Shabbos. The sunflower people. Anyways, mustard seeds. So mustard seeds. Where were we? I got all distracted by sunflower seeds. You know who eats sunflower seeds? The people out in the park yelling as loud as they want. Those are the people that eat sunflower seeds. There's the yentas in the bungalow colony on Shabbos afternoon. That's one thing, and then there's the sunflower people. Right, friends, we gotta go weiter. We gotta go weiter. Where were we? The sunflower seeds, the gourds, the sunflower seeds, the gourds, the sunflower seeds, the gourds, the Akoponim. So Rabbi Yehuda, So Rabbi Yochanan wanted to say that our Mishnah could even be Rabbi Yehuda, and that once already he is becoming a Vadai Nazir, it's definitely a Nazir. Either there's gourds or the sunflower seeds in the box, but there's something in the box, and he's definitely a Nazir. So Rabbi Yochanan says we have to go hard on the guy and say it's as if it's filled with mustard seeds. However, fact the Gemara, one second, but we're talking about successive, separate, unique Nazir experiences over here. And therefore, sure, he's going to have to do successive Nazir experiences for the gourds, but once if 3 gourds could fit into that box, so after 3 successive Nazir experiences, the gourds are over, and he's no longer a Nazir because after each Nazir experience, a new one begins. But the gourd ones are over, and now it's actually a question: does a new one begin? Do we need to now start an additional Nazir experience for the I'm not going to get back into the sunflower seeds thing, for the mustard seeds? And then that's a question. Rabbi Yochanan's whole argument was that when Rabbi Yehuda is lenient, it's when we're not sure if he's actually a Nazir at all. For example, in the pile, we don't know if there's 100 kor. We don't know if he's a Nazir bichlal, so therefore we say forget about it, he's not a Nazir. But that same thing happens in our case as well. If, let's say, you could fit 3 gourds into the box, so after 3 gourd-related Nazir experiences, the gourds are behind us, he's no longer a Nazir because he completed his final gourd-related Nazir experience, and now it's a question, is he now a Nazir for the for the mustard seed-related Naziruses? This is a fun sugya, huh? Wow, it's rare that we get into real lamdus like this anymore. I'm telling you, 3 months of Nidarim and now Nazir, we haven't gotten into a sugya like this, where we're talking about mustard seeds and sunflower seeds and giving a whole spiel and is it this? You see my hand? It's doing the maneuver. It's a sugya. I'm even getting worked up. Friends, maybe I'm going to shed a tear. Nah, let's go weiter. Don't tell my mom. Okay, all right. I'm talking too much. So says the Gemara, no, actually this notion of ours that we're talking about unique individual Nazir experiences is false. Rabbi Yehuda holds like Rebbe, the Tanan, as we learned in our Mishnah, Rabbi Omer, Ein ze megaleach achas l'shloshim yom. Right? That in our Mishnah, at the beginning of the daf, we had said that if he says he's going to be a Nazir like the follicles of hair on his head, so he's a Nazir for 30, he does a 30-day Nazir experience for each follicle of hair on his head. Rebbe disagreed and says, no, only if he specifies that he's going to do Naziros, multiple Nazir experiences for each follicle, but short of that, it's one Nazir experience, and therefore, Rabbi Yehuda holds like Rebbe, no, he doesn't get, right? These are not separate 30-day Nazir experiences where he would get a haircut every 30 days. Who would get a haircut every 30 days? So Omer Ari Ola Naziros kisa'ar roshi v'chafar aretz v'kachol hayam. Only if he specifies that we're talking about multiple Naziruses, but otherwise it's talking about one Nazirus. And therefore, Rabbi Yochanan would explain that we could say that our Mishnah is also Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore when he says that he is going to be a Nazir, like this box, so we are not talking about separate Naziruses, and is it sort of the number of Nazirus experiences corresponding to gourds or corresponding to mustard seeds? It's not that. It's that he's going to be a Nazir for one period. The question is it a period that is the equivalent of the gourds or the equivalent of the mustard seeds? But it's going to be one Nazir experience, and therefore the question is this one Nazir experience, right? It's not that it starts over every 30 days. No, it's going to be one long Nazirus for the duration of, the number of gourds you could fit into the box or the number of mustard seeds you could fit in the box. And in that case, we have to go stringent and say it's the longer amount, it's the mustard seed amount, and therefore we have to go stringent. The Rabbi Yehuda would say that once already he's definitely a Nazir, we have to go stringent and say that it's the mustard seed amount. And Rabbi Yehuda, does Rabbi Yehuda really hold like Rabbi? But we learn in our Mishnah. What does Agos say? That if a fellow says that he's going to be a Nazir like the days of a solar year, so he needs to experience one 30-day Nazir experience for each of the 365 days of the year. So 365 times 30 days. Every 30 days, for 365 times, he's going to do a Nazir experience. So he's going to have to do 365 30-day Nazir experiences. And then says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, and guess who comes to add to this teaching of the Mishnah? Rabbi Yehuda. The Mishnah says that if he says he's going to be a Nazir for 365 days, 300 like the days of the year, so it's 365 times 30-day experiences. And Rabbi Yehuda comes to say, and by the way, there was this story and the guy did it and he died. So it seems like he seems to be on board. He's the guy who's coming to add on to this halacha. So it would sound like Rabbi Yehuda is on board with that we're talking about unique experiences, not like Rebbe who would say it would be one Nazirus for 360 days. Because if he was, then why is he coming to support the Tanna Kama who's saying that we're talking about unique experiences over here? It makes sense if we're saying that Rabbi Yehuda is assuming 365 times 30-day experiences. That is what Rabbi Yehuda is coming to support that notion in saying that this guy did it and then he died, that whole thing. But if you say that he doesn't agree with that, and instead he holds like Rebbe, that it would be one 365-day experience, mihavi ashlama klal, you have to, I think the way I understand is you have to read it as saying, then would this thing of the guy completing it and then dying make any sense in context to be coming as a support for the Tanna Kama who says that we're talking about unique 30-day experiences? Because he seems to be coming to support the Tanna Kama. But if he holds like Rebbe, then how can he be coming to support the Tanna Kama? You should be disagreeing. The Od, and additionally, Misavrla ki Rebbe, does Rabbi Yehuda actually hold like Rebbe? V'hatanya, but we learn in a brisa, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, says Rabbi Yehuda, Hareini Nazir, Minyan, Hilkite Kayitz, that he's going to be a Nazir for the number of, what was it, the fig? Oh man, the piles of figs, I think? Okay, like piles of figs when you harvest it or something. Uminyan shvile shmita, or the paths that people take to get into hefker fields on shmita. Monin naziros k'minin hilkatei kayitz u'k'minin shibol shmita. So Yehuda says that you count separate Naziroses, separate 30-day experiences for each of these piles or these paths. So therefore, we seem to be saying that Rabbi Yehuda seems to be on board with these individual 30-day experiences, not like Rebbe, who says that we're talking about one large experience. Minyan shiny. So the Gemara answers that if you notice in both of those cases, right, Kiminyan Yimosachama in our Mishnah, or Kiminyan Hilkatei Kayetz, or Kiminyan Shvilei Shmita, those all have the magic word minyan. That if the magic word minyan is there, so then Rabbi Yehuda would say in that case, it's talking about unique, individual 30-day experiences. But if you don't, but for example, Areni Nazir Kesar Roshi, where it doesn't mention minyan, then he would agree with Rebbe that we're talking about one long experience. Umishani le Rebbe minyan. But one second, if we're saying that Rabbi Yehuda and Rebbe agree, well then just like Rabbi Yehuda makes a distinction between minyan, right? If it says minyan, so then it's individual 30-day experiences, and if it doesn't say minyan, so then it's one long experience. So it would sound like Rebbe would agree with that as well. Ve'atanya, but we learn in a brisa, Harini Nazir kiminyan yimosachama. If a fellow says that he's going to be a Nazir like the number of days in the year, Mona Naziros kiminyan yimosachama. He will count in individual 30-day Nazir experiences times 365. Kimi alavana, Mona kimi alavana, or like the days of the of moon. So you count, I assume that it's talking about a lunar year, which is 354 days, times 30-day experiences. But Rebbe disagrees. Ad sheyoma naziros alai k'minyan nimosacham och k'minyan nimosacham. Rebbe says he would have to specify naziros that we're talking about individual 30-day Nazir experiences. And if he doesn't specify that, well then, we're talking about one long one. So here, even though he says minyan, Rebbe is still disagreeing and not making a distinction to say that we're talking about unique experiences. So, and for the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda savla kavase bechadu falagale bechadu. Look, Rabbi Yehuda agrees with Rebbe on one thing, but disagrees with him on the other. Savla kavase bechadu nazirus kabil ilave. So he holds like what's the Agos Abach? Chada Naziros Kabil Lave. So he holds like Rebbe with this concept of one Nazirus. So for example, like when he accepts upon himself Nazirus like a box, so we're talking about that he's accepting upon himself one long Nazirus, either for the equivalent of gourds or mustard seeds, but we're talking about one Nazirus, and he agrees with Rebbe like that. Where he disagrees, Ufalaga Ale Bechadati Rebbe Rabbi Yehuda Shani Le Mone Rebbe Lo Shani Le Mone. But where they disagree, where they differ, is that Rabbi Yehuda says that if you use the word minyan, so then we're talking, that's a magic word, which means that, or as we say in computer programming, a reserved word, and that would indicate separate Nazir experience, 30-day Nazir experiences, whereas Rebbe doesn't hold, says no such thing, and we're always talking about one long experience. Taner Rabbanan, the Rabbi started in a Nazir, Kol Yemei Chayai. We saw this yesterday. If a fellow says he's going to be a Nazir for his entire life, or in a Nazir Olam, or if he says he's going to be a Nazir Olam, or is a Nazir Olam. So he's a Nazir Olam that we learned about the other day, that, if he gets COVID, if his hair gets too heavy, he can cut it. Afilu me shana, afilu elif shanim. Now, if he says he's going to be a Nazir for 100 years, for 1,000 years, ain't a Nazir Olam, el Nazir li Olam. Then he is not a Nazir Olam, he's a Nazir li Olam. Meaning, the difference is, it's just one long Nazir. So, for example, if you're a Nazir for 30 days, or 60 days, or 90 days, you can't get a haircut at all until the end, right? If you're a Nazir Olam, okay, so then when your hair gets heavy, so you can get a haircut. But if you're just, one long Nazir, if you're a Nazir for 10 years or whatever, so you can't get a haircut for those 10 years. So also, if he says he's a Nazir for 100 years or 1,000 years, it's one long Nazirus. It's going to be one long Nazirus for the rest of his life. Taner Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Hareini Nazir ve'achas. A fellow says he's a Nazir and another one, right? And one. So Monashtaim, so he does two Nazir experiences. Ve'od, and another. Monashalosh, so we're talking about three. Vishuv, and again, Mona Arba, well then that's four. Pshita, isn't that obvious? Ma'odetema Vishuv, Kikulu Vavi Leishis, Kamash Belandelo. Well, I may have thought when it says and again, when he had already done 3, and then he says, and again, I might think that it's in another 3. So maybe 6. So no, Kamash Malon, we're just talking about 4. Tana Rabbana, the Rabbi Stada, Reini Nazir, that he's a Nazir, Sumchos Omer, Hein, Achas. If he says that he's a Nazir, followed by the word Hein, so it means he's doing 1 Nazir experience. Digun, Shtaim, if he says Digun, then it means 2 Nazir experiences. Trigun, Shalosh, Tachugun, Arba, Pontigun, Chomesh. Okay, if he says these other words, then it's 3, 4, 5 Nazir experiences respectively. Tana Rabbana, the Rabbi Stada, Bayis Agul, a round house. Digun, Trigun, Pontigun, or if it has 2 corners, 3 corners, 5 corners, Eino Matami Benegoyim, it cannot get Tumas, right? It can't get Saras. Tachugon, but if it has 4 corners of the house, Matami Benegoyim, then it can get Saras. My time Akam, Lamato Omer Kir Kiros, Lamalo Omer Kir Kiros, Hare Kan Arba. That it says in 2 separate psukim, Kiros is minimum of 2 psukim, 2 walls, 2 times 2 is 4. So if it has 4 corners in the house, so then it can get, Tzaras. Friends, that was the Ches of Masechta Nazir. We just finished the first parak of Masechta Nazir. Ajun Olach Kokinuye. So okay, we're 1 parak into Masechta Nazir already. And today was an interesting daf. We talked about different Nazir's terms and if they're individual. Right? We saw the machlokas between the Tanakama, who's more likely to say we're talking about individual 30-day Nazir experiences, and Rebbe who says we're talking about 1 long Nazir experience. We also said that if he says that he's to be a Nazir like the contents of a box. So the question is, do you treat it like it's filled with gourds or like it's filled with mustard seeds? So the Mishnah says we treat it like it's filled with mustard seeds. Chizkiah wanted to say that the Mishnah is like Reb Shimon, who says that we have to be stringent when it comes to a Nazir. Rabbi Yochanan wanted to argue that no, it could even be like Rabbi Yehuda, because since he's definitely going to be a Nazir, we could be, even Rabbi Yehuda would say that when you're not sure if he's a Nazir, we'll be Mekel, but over here would say that we'd be stringent. Friends, that was Daf Ches of Masechta Nazir. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.